Welcome to This Week in Health IT events, where we amplify great ideas with interviews from the floor. My name is Bill Russell, healthcare CIO coach and creator of This Week in Health IT, a set of podcasts and videos dedicated to developing the next generation of health leaders. We want to thank our founding channel sponsors who make this content possible, HealthLyrics and VMware. If you want to be a part of our mission to develop health leaders, go to thisweekhealth.com/sponsor for more information. This episode is sponsored by HealthLyrics. When I became a CIO, I was really overwhelmed at first, and one of the first things I did was to sign a CIO coach to walk with me through the journey. This was someone who had wisdom that can only be gained through years of experience. It was invaluable to my success in the role, and I now coach CIOs through HealthLyrics. If you want to learn more, visit healthlyrics.com or drop me a note at bill@thisweekinhealthit.com. Over the next 3 weeks, we have a huge treat for you. I'm really excited about it. I just got back from the CHIME Fall Forum in Scottsdale, which was a great event, and we caught up with 12 active CIOs from various size health systems and asked them to take a look back at 2019 and a look forward at 2020. You're going to hear what they're excited to have accomplished last year and what they're looking forward to accomplish next year. I asked each of them the same 8 questions, and I think you're going to be fascinated to hear the similarities and the differences based on where they're at, geography, and other things. Each of these interviews is about 10 minutes long, so you can listen to them really quick, and some of you listen at 1.5 times speed, so it's going to go like that. We're going to publish one a day with a few Newsday episodes sprinkled in through the end of November, so check back every day for the next episode, and don't forget to look back to see if you missed any. Our next guest in the series is Darren Dworkin, the CIO for Cedars-Sinai in LA. Great conversation. Hope you enjoy. So, Darren, thanks for joining us. CHIME, another one of the interviews. So we have 8 prepared questions.
Excellent.
Because what we're going to do is we're going to ask a bunch of CIOs the same questions, really a look back and a look forward. And we're going to start with the almost obligatory question, which is, how has the role changed this year? Not how has it changed over 5 years, but how has it changed this year, do you think?
I think this year, more than most, or maybe a continuing of most, it's getting harder and harder to pick what not to do.
There's a lot of new technologies, new
A lot of new technologies, a lot of new operational imperatives. You know, the blessing of technology is that all of the operational clinical areas want to embrace technology in some way, shape, or form and get us involved. The curse of this, of course, is that every business unit and clinical area's priorities in some way involve IT. And the reality is we can't do everything well. And so this constant battle of sort of where we're going to allocate time and resources is just getting harder and harder.
Do you try to focus on those things that you can really do well, as opposed to doing 5 things mediocre? Is that a conscious process?
You know, I'll say that we've evolved a little bit. So I think that there's no doubt that myself and many on my team have these like big views of what we can do well and where we should spend our time and what are, you know, a priority over another priority. But the truth is that's a never-ending battle that I'm not sure you ever hit the right equilibrium. And so we've really embraced something that early in my career I was very opposed to, and that is turning over almost as much decision-making as is possible over to governing groups. And when I say turnover, I don't mean just sort of the dog and pony show of a meeting or two. I mean truly turning over and letting those groups decide and transparently see where all the conflicts are or competing priorities, and ultimately help sort of pick where they want to go.
You're like the 3rd large system CIO who has said something to that effect of, I've removed myself from the decision-making process. Not completely.
Right.
I'm still an advisor. I inform the decisions, but the business makes the decision on what they want to do.
Now, the tricky part of that comes in 2 areas. The first is nobody's going to come to you and say, you know what, yesterday, dial tone was spectacular. And I've been really thinking about this new upgrade plan I have for dial tone to make it even better. So, you know, we have to advocate for those projects. And then the other is that I think that one of the advantages that CIOs have is that because we get to work across the organization, we can view and see the emerging platforms coming better than some of our colleagues. And so we often have to weave them together. So I'll give you a great example. my counterpart in HR, my counterpart in finance, my counterpart in supply chain, all are very excited about a new series of initiatives. They don't naturally think of that as an ERP project. I think it's our job to sort of tie those together into a platform.
Looking into next year, what are maybe 2 or 3 things that you think are going to focus in on from a health IT perspective? Dial tone?
Yes, dial tone. I have this new idea for dial tone. It's going to be spectacular. I think probably the biggest challenge is going to be figuring out what the 3 of them are. If I had to guess ahead, though, I think one of them is we continue to grow and supporting that growth. And really remembering that, when we brought one area of the organization up to a certain level, that becomes the expectation for the next level of the organization. And so we've been growing quite a bit on the ambulatory side, and so there'll be a lot of that expansion. There will be the constant pressures, and I would be remiss if I didn't sort of highlight efficiency and trying to figure out how to do more with less and working smarter. I think automation has a big role to play there. I think what I'll call operation or practical AI will have sort of a real thread that can sort of weave in. And then, I think that there's going to be sort of the everything else, all these other sort of new, exciting areas. It would be cliche to say it'll be digital or digital transformation, but I think that we are going to continue that march towards thinking about IT as not just its traditional B2B, but also now bringing in sort of our patients as consumers and the technology they're going to want.
But that is what it is, digital transformation, when you talk about RPA going in and replacing processes and those kind of things.
Yeah. I want to give you a great example because it just happened. So on Sunday, my amazing team, while I was gallivanting here at CHIME, upgraded our EMR. They did a fabulous job. Not only did we upgrade the EMR, but we did 4 infrastructure upgrades. It went flawless. Wow. Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. But here's the thing that we didn't naturally think of. We notified everybody in the health system about the downtime really, really well, and I'd like to think that we got a 8, a 9, maybe even a 9.5 out of communication. But you know who we didn't notify? Our patients, that the portal would be down and that some of their patient-facing functions would be down.
And we don't think
we just don't think of that way. We thought of it the moment patients called our help desk to say, hey, what's wrong? But up until then, we hadn't really thought about it. And I think we just need to start doing that.
I appreciate you sharing that, and which gets to the next question, which is one initiative that you think will materially impact the patient or patient experience next year.
As we continue to offer digital tools to reduce the friction in access to healthcare. Unfortunately, we are closer to the DMV than we are to Amazon One-Click, and there's not going to be an Amazon One-Click for healthcare, but there's a lot that we can do to bring that closer.
But you're bringing a lot of companies in through your accelerator. You're bringing a lot of companies in, and there's a lot of companies going after this patient experience space. Are we just not finding it, or is it just too difficult to plug it all together?
I think we're finding it. I think, though, as the expression goes, healthcare is complicated, and so it's taking a little bit of time. And like anything in people, process, and technology, the reality is that technology is the easiest part. And so we've discovered with online scheduling is the actual digital tool of online scheduling is easy as can be. Normalizing schedules across ambulatory practices from the 1,000 plus visit types to 5 that are schedulable. Turns out that takes a long time.
Yeah, it took us almost a year. One initiative focused in on the clinician experience for next year, do you think?
Data. We are amazed or continue to be amazed at the power of giving information back to physicians in their hands so they can see what's happening. And so we have a couple of broad initiatives, but they all sort of boil down to the same thing of putting detailed information, report cards or other dashboard-like things in the hands of physicians so they can see their own use of the system and so that they can be better at articulating where they want their improvements and where we can help support them.
Greatest success for IT in 2019? Quarterly updates?
Greatest success was probably in rounding out our team. Unemployment of technology in IT in LA is pretty low, and we've made some really great strides of expanding and bringing in some really great people, and it might be ironic to say, but the technology business runs on people. And so without great people, we're not going to get great things done.
It's interesting because I don't think people recognize Southern California is really a hotbed for a lot of these companies are moving down from Northern California, and it's the unemployment rate for technologists is really low, and you still have to get cybersecurity expertise. You still have to get data, all sorts of data stewards and data scientists and whatnot. The competition's hard.
It is.
Any missed opportunities for 2019?
Lots of them. Lots of them.
Any one come to mind?
I don't think we spent enough of a focus of really being able to launch our digital solutions, those sort of customer-facing solutions, and position them in a way that engaged operations enough. I think that we initially came out of the gate starting with them being very tech-centric. I think we had a little bit too much of the disrupt first, figure out what happens sort of next. And I think we sort of failed to understand the amount of process redesign that had to occur. And I think that, honestly, for CIO and for many, there's a lot of pressure that if you come out and say no to a digital solution, you're quick to be cast as a Luddite or somebody that doesn't quite get it. And I think, one of my bigger regrets in 2019 was not finding the right balance between still saying yes to the very important initiatives that we wanted to move forward, but intertwining it enough with operational engagement.
Yeah, area you'd like to see more innovation at this point?
I think there's a lot more we can do in, everybody talks about AI. I will say just reporting. Getting the right information to the right person at the right time. We have spent the last 10, 12 years painstakingly digitizing, enabling so much of the organization. In our case, it was really deploying the EMR. Yes, it's true we don't have everything in structured data, but there's so much more information we can figure out how to put in front of people at the right time. We have an unbelievably great leader over our data science and business intelligence team, and I think he's really helping me understand that the old worlds of self-service, thinking it would be this magic button of you just sort of turn it over, doesn't really work because, again, the data is complicated. But creating a service desk for people to go down the path of self-service, I think is really a big, big untapped opportunity.
So we're not going to see the Google search button where I go, tell me how many patients have, whatever. That's not anytime soon?
We might, and I guess the folks at Google will have to answer whether they'll be anytime soon or not. But I think that my point I would make is that with all of the talk of AI and predictive analytics and fancy Google search buttons that I'm sure will be great, there's a lot of basic level stuff that we can do to make lives for our users a lot easier.
Last question, health IT roles you expect to hire more in 2020?
Cybersecurity, data visualization. Those are two that come to mind. Again, though, not to be all over the place, but not to also forget, the folks that can do clinical translation and help us continue to deploy and optimize and roll out our EMRs. But those first two, in cybersecurity, I think that there continue to be a big sort of amount of openings and opportunity there. And back to this data thing, I often meet folks and I tell them you should think about data visualization or a data role in healthcare, and they say, oh, I'm not a math person, I'm not a data person. And especially to creatives, I say to them that we need new ways to be able to view and consume the information. And so there's just this amazing intersection going on right now, and I hope the best people decide to hop into healthcare.
Fantastic. Darren, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Remember to check back often, as we are going to drop an episode a day for most of November of 2019. Following that, please come back every Friday for more great interviews with influencers, and don't forget, every Tuesday we take a look at the news which impacts health IT. If you want to support the fastest growing podcast in the health IT space, here's a few ways that you can do that. The first, share it with a peer, share it with a friend, share it with somebody who's working right there next to you. Number two, sign up for Insights and Staff Meeting. These are services designed to help you in your career. Number 3, interact with our social media content on Twitter and LinkedIn. Number 4, post or repost our content. And number 5, always send me feedback, bill@thisweekinhealthit.com. Your insights continue to shape the channel. This show is a production of This Week in Health IT. For more great content, you can check out our website at thisweekhealth.com or our YouTube channel. Special thanks to our sponsors, VMware and Health Lyrics, for choosing to invest in developing the next generation of health leaders. Thanks for listening. That's all for now. Our next guest in the series is Darren Dworkin, the CIO for Cedars-Sinai in LA. Great conversation. Hope you enjoy.